Hello one and all, welcome back to Create Ball, where it's been a while since I've made a video, but that's just because I've been working on a new animated series on my second channel called Repose. Anyway, I'm back from my Create Ball hiatus to talk about Stranger Things 3, because I have some mixed feelings about it, which I'm going to tell you guys about today. Also, watch Season 3 before watching this video because spoilers, unless you're into that kind of thing. Let's start off with the first episode of the season because I hated it. I thought it was way too overstimulating. Too much stuff was happening and it was happening too quickly. Which is kind of weird because the first episode didn't really need to do very much. All it did was establish a conflict between Hopper and Mike, introduce Dustin's radio tower, and by extension the Russians, and show Billy getting flayed at the end. That's the only important information in this episode, but for some reason the whole episode feels way too fast-paced, and I don't really know why, because the rest of the series has no problem handling multiple storylines at once. Anyway, with that first episode out of the way, let's talk about this season's storylines. First, there's the Russia facility plot, or as I'll be calling it for the rest of this video, the R-plot. This is not only my favorite storyline in the season, but in the whole show. I love all of the characters involved, yes, even Erica. I love how their plan of breaking into the storage room is called Operation Child Endangerment. The interrogation scene is my favorite scene from the whole show, and I love literally everything else about this storyline. Is it what I was expecting from Stranger Things? Certainly not. But I'm glad I got it, especially since what I was expecting from Stranger Things was a little disappointing this season. The Mind Flayer plot, or M-plot, was by far my least favorite in the season. And it was all due to pacing. Yes, the M-plot did technically start at the end of episode 1, just like the R-plot. But then it goes and spends the first 3 episodes just going on and on about rats. We don't see very much of Billy until episode 4, and we don't see a monster until episode 5. And by that point, the series is more than halfway over. The worst thing about this is that the M-plot is this season's only upside-down plot, which is usually the most important plot of the season, but this one doesn't even really start until halfway through. This means that the M-plot gets really rushed by the end of the season, and the massive flesh flare we see doesn't feel earned because we've barely seen it before now. If I wrote the show, I would have merged episodes 2 and 3, since episode 2 is just about rats, and episode 3 is just about rats and Billy. So there could have just been one episode about the rats and Billy, then episode 3 could have been the sauna test, and then we'd have an extra episode fleshing out the flayed. Moving on, we have the Alexei or A-plot, which was okay, but I don't have a lot to say about it. It doesn't have any glaring issues, but I didn't like it as much as the R-plot, so I don't have much to talk about. But what about that finale? Well, I would have really liked it if it wasn't for the before-mentioned pacing issues of the M-plot. The Flesh Layer goes from being taken out fairly easily with 11, an axe, and a gun, to being practically unstoppable in one episode, and it feels kind of forced. Remember how in Season 2 there was the Lost Sister episode that messed up the pacing of the finale? Well, it was kind of like that, except instead of a single episode messing up the pacing, it was a third of the season. But then, to ruin the pacing even further, we have Dustin's call with Susie, which quickly turns into a musical number. I'm not kidding. Now, don't get me wrong, this was a pretty funny scene, but it was too long and it came at the wrong time. But pacing aside, the finale was pretty good. I don't really know what to expect as far as Season 4 goes, because Hopper's death and his final heart-to-heart and everything feels like a fitting enough end to the series. But then there's the after-credits scene with the Demogorgon, which makes me think there's a Season 4 in our future. Speaking of that scene, it kinda makes me think that Hopper might still be alive, because at the beginning of the scene, the Russians mention an American in one of the cells. And I know that it could technically be just any American, but Hopper is the only character that the Russians specifically call the American. So it makes me think that maybe the person in that jail cell is Hopper. I really hope it isn't, because I hate fake-out deaths, and I don't even know if there's going to be a Season 4 or not, but I don't know, maybe. Now, the last thing I have to say about this season is about the monsters. The monsters here are a lot less unique than they were in other seasons. Instead of a humanoid monster with a face that splits open, or a giant tornado spider, we have zombies. And I don't think I need to tell you that zombies have kind of been done already. Sure, they eventually melt together and become the Flesh Flayer, but even then, they're basically just the monster from The Thing. There's even a reference to The Thing in the show, which makes me think this was intentional. So overall, I don't really know what to think about this season. I really like a lot that's here, especially the R-plot, but I have a lot of problems with a third of the show. Basically what I'm saying is that I think this season has some of the highest highs and the lowest lows of the series. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today, so why not like and subscribe? You have nothing to lose. It's not like you have a limited number of subscriptions or anything, so why not? But until next time, don't die. I'll see you all later.